Welcome back, everyone. Michael here. And in the last video, I was asking people to identify where in the world I am. And so I am in Riga, Latvia. So for those of you who guessed correctly, congratulations. That's awesome. You know your locations. For those who did not, it is a place, I think it's worth coming to check it out. I'm a kind of relentless traveler in the sense that I like to go check out new places all the time. I try to go to not necessarily new countries, but new places within countries that I've always been as well. And so I always encourage people to do that. So I'll talk to you a little bit in this video about Latvia. What is Latvia like? What are the opportunities here for those who are interested? And in particular about the residency programs to see if there's something you can take advantage of. Hint, there might be on the Digital Nomad front or on the Golden Visa front. Digital Nomad visa is kind of what are known, and so is the Golden Visa. And, both could be right for the correct person, but we will talk about some of the specifics to see whether it is a fit for you. So let's dive in and talk about that. Just before we get started, if you're looking for places to go and relocate to and live, we've created a guide for you, which is 10 great places to go where you will live, we'll call it a life of luxury, but an excellent life. There's a high quality of life. And do that while not having an excessively expensive life, so you can get a better quality of life and lower cost of living. What a wonderful, novel concept in this world that is filled with, frankly, lots of situations where people have rising costs of living and lower and lower quality of life. So let's dive in and talk. But if you're interested in checking out that guide, you can please download it. It's for free. There's a link in the description below, as well as in the pinned comment. And so while it's there, please take advantage of it. I'm creating some videos that are going through some of the places, but we talk about, some of the tax programs that are beneficial to you, some of the residency programs that are beneficial to you, some of the hidden gems and places to go and live there. So lots of great information that you might want to have access to. Okay, let's dive in. So quickly talking about Riga, Latvia. So Baltic country. I recently was posting a little bit about Lithuania. One of the earliest videos that I did, I was in Estonia. And so I had talked about that back in the day. So it's one of these places. The language is this Slavic Baltic language. It's not something that you're going to likely need anywhere except for in Latvia. And that might be a little thing. We're going to talk in a minute about citizenship and what's required there and whether you would want to go down that path. But anyway, it's something to consider. Riga is not a particularly large city. It's about 600,000 people. You can depend on, like what area you're talking about, etc. It feels quite a bit bigger than that. It has a little bit of Belgrade feel, I guess I would say. There's quite a lot of soul. There's actually an alarmingly good food scene here. And you get a little bit of this, I don't know, like punk rocker type, gothic, whatever vibe in certain areas. The old town is a very medieval feeling. It's very nice. I can't really show you guys too much from here because I'm kind of on the edge, but you can see there's some nice architecture. It's also got, older, worn out architecture, etc. And so it goes both ways, just depending on where you are. It's not especially cheap, just like Lithuania, just like Estonia. You're not here for the lowest cost of living. The local opportunities are not as good as they are in some place like Estonia or Latvia. Companies have set up much more in Estonia and in fact much more again in Lithuania than they have here, and is what it is. But the residency options are a fair bit better or easier than you would find in some place like Lithuania, generally. Now again, depends a little bit on your situation and that sort of thing, but generally I would say this is the case. Although they sort of allow dual citizenship, there are some cases where they don't, so we'll talk about that again in just a minute. And so yeah, let's see. I think let's dive into the residency programs. So 3 residency programs we're going to talk about. The first one is the Digital Nomad visa. Digital Nomad visa, I think, is probably underrated. Why is it underrated? Well, it's fairly easy to get. So you need 2.5 times the income of the minimum wage, so it's a few thousand euros a month. Fairly easy to qualify for that. The processing time is fairly quick. Unlike some of them that are only available for 1 year, this one can be renewed for a second year. You have to afterwards be out for 6 months before you can transition to another, etc. But 2 years is better than many what you get with a lot of these. It is, of course, a Schengen country, so you get access to the Schengen zone through that program. And notably, there are some tax benefits to doing that. So you can end up in a situation where you pay no or little tax, which is really excellent. So I think that gives it's like probably one of the more attractive ways to have residency in the Schengen zone would be through a digital nomad visa there in Latvia if you're going to do something that's kind of non-permanent, right? It also kind of through that process, you can transition into a more longer term residency. And as I understand it, you can count the time that you were living in Latvia under the digital nomad visa towards your overall residency criteria to get permanent residency, etc. So that's pretty cool as well. The downside of it is that it does not allow dependents. So it's a person by person thing. Doesn't matter who the dependent is, not kids, not spouse, not any of that. They're not allowed. So it's only you. Okay. So, okay, it is what it is. But, fast processing and these sorts of things, it's not bad. I've talked in previous videos about some of the other digital nomad visas, places like Croatia, places like Malta, places like Estonia, etc. And, they all have their pros and cons, but I would say this is one of the ones that is under the radar that people don't really know about that they should probably take advantage of if they're looking for easy access to the Schengen zone. Second option is you can get a startup business visa. Now, I'm going to mostly skip over the details on this one because for the most part, I don't think it's very applicable to people. There are some countries, and Latvia is one of them, where if you get investment from a VC firm or an incubator, etc., that they qualify you. This is like, maybe you don't get it, what a pain in the ass. Okay, so generally speaking, if there's a high-tech visa that actually has to be high-tech, in most cases, it's not worth it. That's my general experience. Not everywhere, but for example, they have one in Italy, kind of a pain in the ass to go through. They have one here, they have one in a few different other places. Most of the time, I think it's not the best path, but it's an option. It comes with a situation where, okay, you have to go through and have it for, well, in that case, there is an advantage, which is after 3 years, you can qualify for permanent residency. So it's a little bit quicker versus the 5 years that you typically get. But that comes at the price of some fairly high physical presence requirements inside the country. So this is not so great. There's no special tax treatment, etc. I will in a future video go over and talk about the tax rules in Latvia, the opportunities there for people who want to take advantage of it. So make sure you subscribe and check that out when they come. I'm going through doing all these different profiles. So you'll be able to see, what countries you want to move to and what the opportunities are there. Or if you come from one of those countries, what the opportunities are in the country that you're in as well. So anyway, that's, it's okay. It's okay. This brings us to the third one, and this is the golden visa. Now, the golden visa, in some respects, I think it didn't really get the attention that maybe was expected. At first, they were kind of one of the earliest ones to launch, and it got more attention earlier on. But it's been less attractive compared to something like Portugal and something like Greece, generally speaking. Portugal has the path to citizenship. Technically, they have the path to citizenship here, but in reality, it's not actually so great because you need to learn Latvian, which a lot of people aren't going to do. And the physical presence requirements to get the citizenship are quite high. There is dual citizenship allowed for people who are from other EU countries, for people who are from NATO countries, and there's a few other specific ones, places like Brazil, etc. So if you're from one of those countries, it is a great passport. It's a nice passport to have if you can get it. But, it's quite a commitment. You're typically talking about 10 years of residency, so it's basically 5 years to get permanent, and then 5 years as a permanent resident in order to go through, and then pass a language test and put in the physical time and all this sort of thing. The golden visa is interesting because you have to visit once a year to renew, but you're in a situation where you have no physical presence requirement. So how do you qualify? There's a few different ways. One is you can invest 50,000 euros into a local business that pays 40,000 euros a year in tax. You can pay, it's a 10,000 euro government fee one time, and off you go. Now, the issue, of course, is how do you find that company? There are people who kind of offer some service and they end up charging you a fair amount. So you're effectively just giving away something like 50,000 euros in order to have residency and kind of go through the process. Okay, like if it's just the cost of doing business, one could deal with that. I don't know whether it's my favorite option, but it's an option. The second thing you could do is you could buy real estate. This comes with, you have to pay a 5% of the transaction cost government fee. It's a minimum of 250,000 euros. You need to keep it all the time. It's okay, right? It's not a terrible option. Then they have, I think what is quite interesting to certain people would be a bank deposit. So you can deposit into a local bank account and lock the money up there. You again have to pay a government fee. So there's a bunch of fees associated with that. The question is where at which bank? Now it used to be back in the day, Latvia was pretty popular for offshore banking. So there was Riga Bank, there was a couple others. It's basically like 3 major banks that were really, really common that we would see people setting up. This is, I'm going back, around 10 years or something like that, probably 2015, 2016, et cetera. And people were quite impressed by the way they were treated at these banks compared to in their home banks. Unfortunately, a bunch of things happened. There were problems with a bunch of those banks. The options closed down. And so it's really not viewed as a place to bank for foreigners anymore. But in theory, could be a possible place. The alternative, therefore, if you want something that is, I don't know, safer, I guess, would be to lock up government bonds. So these don't pay any interest, and you still have to pay a fee, but you can lock up, it's, I believe it's 280,000 euros of government bonds, and you can get the residency on that basis. Again, not a terrible idea for people who kind of are looking for one of these other options. Certainly a residence permit in the Schengen zone that gives you a lot of flexibility. The processing time is way faster than something like a Portuguese golden visa, so much, much easier in that regard. And so as a result, I would say it's something worth considering. For any of those visas, the golden visas as well as the startup visa, you can bring dependents. Common law is accepted. Homosexual spouses are acceptable. So you can do all of those. As I said, the minimum stay requirements are quite low here. The path to citizenship is fairly clear if you're actually going to get involved, which, a lot of people will not. One downside of all the Baltic countries, in my view, is the weather is not to my taste. It's a little chilly. I'm here and it is basically the end of June. And okay, yesterday it was actually alarmingly warm, but not so great. Even in the summers, it's really not that warm. I remember landing in Estonia the first time I visited there. It was August 1st. I was going from the airport to the hotel, and I had thought, come on, like, it's August 1st. It's shorts and t-shirt weather. And I look out the window and I see people walking, wearing jackets and scarves and sweaters, and I'm like, what's going on here? It's August 1st. What? No, it's like, the weather is never that good. So that's a downside of these types of places. Now, whether you prefer it, I mean, like I said, I think it's a cool place to come and check out. My personal preference, I like Lithuania more than I like Latvia. I can tell you from the standpoint of setting up businesses. I've dealt with clients who live in all these different countries. We've had companies in all these different countries. We've dealt with banking in all these different countries. Latvia has kind of tried to be Estonia in some of that. And people from Latvia set up companies in Estonia because it's a better business environment, even though on paper they try to make it look attractive. There's a bunch of reasons why I don't recommend setting up companies in Latvia. Lithuania, on the other hand, has some great stuff, and I'll talk about that in a future video. So anyway, I hope that gives you a little bit of an overview. I hope it's helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Put them in the comments below. If you're interested in this, relocating to any other country, etc., reach out to us, book a call with me, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer, like the description below, blah, blah, blah. Or send a message through offshorecitizen.net, and always go and download that guide. So I hope that helps, and I will see you all on the next video.